All right, it is that time. It is time for Happy Little APIs. I hope to see you. I hope you're out there. I'm excited to see you. Let's set the title here so we know what's going on. Happy Little APIs. All right. Hey. All right, so today, if you're joining us, we're going to be building a URL shortener, but we're going to be doing it serverlessly. So we're going to build a serverless URL shortener, but we're not going to use any Lambdas. And you may be asking yourself, what? Why? That's right. Now, this is something that I've done before. It's something that I've shown before. In fact, I'm going to throw a link in here real quick where I have a repo that I built that actually, see if I can get that to go in here. There we go. I have a repo that I built that actually has the three things that we're going to talk about, or the three parts, as well as some blogs. But I've had a lot of questions on how do we do this. So I'm gonna show you, and we're gonna kind of go through it. Now we're gonna be doing it in the console today. That repository shows how to build it with SAM and use an open API. So don't worry. And if you know me at all, I'm a big fan of infrastructure as code. So I'm not changing my stripes here. I'm just simply showing how to do this in the console so we can kind of dig in and answer some questions. But there is still infrastructure as code, and no, I'm not Rob. I don't think if you're saying I am changing my stripes, I'm not. So all right, so let's get started. First of all, just so you know, I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper, serverless for everyone, got the Yeti, here we go. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is decide, well, actually the very first thing we're going to do is security. So let's go ahead and get our screen up here. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to do security, because as you know, security always comes first. So in this, we're going to need two roles, okay? Because we're going to be talking to DynamoDB. And we're going to need a role that allows us to read from DynamoDB. And we're going to need a role that allows us to do more than just read from DynamoDB, basically a CRUD role. But we're going to create them as separate roles because I like to stay very granular. So first of all, let's go ahead and set that up. Now, I'm going to do this in the console. We're going to create the role. I'm in the create role wizard here. And the service I'm going to do is API Gateway. This is the service that I'm going to give the ability to read and write from DynamoDB. So, hello, welcome. I see some people jumping in there. Glad to see you. So we're going to go here, and I'm just going to take the default right now. The only thing this needs to do, or this is doing at the moment, is be able to push to CloudWatch logs. That's a manage policy, so we're going to leave that on there. I'm going to go next. I don't need any tags for the moment. I'm going to call this shorty read because we're making a URL shortener. It's going to be called shorty. So we're going to do shorty read, and this is our read only permissions. Okay, very simple, straight ahead. That did not come out very simple. So here we go, read only. We'll just do that. Okay. Now that I'm creating the role, now I want to go ahead and add some permissions. So I'm going to find that role. Okay, there's shorty read. And we're going to actually add an inline policy because I want to be more granular than what's there right now. So I'm going to choose a service, and it's going to be, this is the service that we're going to be accessing. So it's going to be DynamoDB here. And I'm going to need the actions. Now, this is our read only. So I could just check read, that's fine. But if you look under it, there's a lot of things that are happening here. So let's just do the ones that we need. Now again, I feel like these are going to be secure, but I like to be very secure. So we're going to allow batch get item. We're going to allow query, and we're going to allow get item. And that is all I need because we're going to be getting item, we're going to be querying, we're going to be doing a batch item. We don't do scans here. We're just doing queries. All right. So that's going to be the policy. Now, I need to do a specific table. So we're actually going to jump out. In order to do this, we need to go ahead and create our table. So maybe I should have done that first. So we're going to create a table. We're going to call it shorty. Okay. And our partition key, I'm just going to simply do ID. I don't need a sort key, and string for my partition is fine. I am, however, going to use a global index, a global secondary index. And the reason I'm going to do that is because later we're going to be adding in where we have an owner, and I want to be able to search on the owner. And I see some of you are saying I should be using the command line. That may be so, but sometimes that's hard to follow, especially if you're brand new to this. So we're kind of doing the console here. But again, I'll be posting links to you saw that link to the repository that has this all as infrastructure as code. All right, so the index that we're going to add is called owner index. Real quick here. Okay, like so. I don't need a sort key. And I'm sorry, the ID, and actually I'm going to make sure of this before I get crazy because I don't want to have to change my code later. So let me check, let me refer to my code to see what I named that. Alrighty, because that would be really bad to redo those later. So, okay. So, on our index, we're calling the partition key is actually just owner. Now this is actually the parameter that's going to exist in there. It's going to require that I add that. I don't need a sort key, so just a partition key of owner with a string, and I'm going to name the index owner index like so. And I'm going to do the projected attributes all. And that means all the keys that are in the record are going to get put into this. So and you don't always want to do that, but that works for this. But you might want to look that up if you're going to be adding larger data sets. All right, so we're going to add that index. So we've got our table name, we've got our partition key. I'm good with on demand. I don't need to do anything else. My encryption at rest, the default key is fine. And there we go. We're going to create this. And once that's created, or it's creating, I've got an ARN that I can use. Okay, so let's go back to our role. In this, hello, there we go. So now I want to be able to tell it the ARN that I'm going to use. Now I can put in the region, everything here, but if I pre-populate the ARN like so, we're going to see here that it loads the region, the account, and the table name here, and this account is a throwaway, so I'm okay that you're seeing that. And so I'm going to hit add, and now I've got that locked down. I don't need any special conditions, so let's review the policy, and there we go. So now we're going to name, now we need to name the policy. So this is going to be DDB read only, or just DDB read, and there's the policy, and it's now attached to my role. So there we go. So that's our first role. So we're going to create a second role. Okay, so first of all, let's copy this ARN. We'll just save it off somewhere because we'll want this later. So I'm going to pull this over so we can all see it here. And just for those who are watching, is the text big enough? Do I need to blow it up? Okay. So I'm not seeing anything at the moment, so I'm going to say that's good. All right, blow it up. Okay, so we need a little bigger. We can do that. All right, let's go one more. All right, there we go. That should be big enough. Okay, so now we need one more role. Okay, so we've got our shorty read. Now we need a shorty crud. Okay, so let's make another one. We're going to create this one. We'll follow the same process at the moment just to get it started. And that's fine there. I don't need any tags. We're going to review it, and we're going to call this shorty crud. Okay, crud is create, read, update, delete. So this is the crud role. There we go. And we'll create that. So now let's add our policy like I said before. So we've got our shorty crud, and we're going to do our inline policy. And again, we're going to go Dynamo. That's all we're going to talk to at the moment. And this time we want to do write, but again, we don't want everything. Okay, so really all I need to be able to do is to delete an item. I'm going to put an item, okay, and I'm going to update item, and that is it. Okay, so delete, put, and update. And really I don't even need the put because I'm going to use update item only, but just in case we add it later because it's a little more standard, and I'll explain that as we go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an ARN. Okay, now, so let's do this. So we're going to add an ARN. We'll go over to our table again, and we'll grab this ARN like so. Okay, and we're going to go back to here, and we're going to add this in. Okay, All right, we're going to add that, and off we go. So now that gets us mostly where we need to be, but we're going to make one change here in just a moment. So we're going to call this DDB CRUD. Okay, so that's our policy. All right. Okay, so I'm watching the chat here. I'm not seeing anything. We're looking good. Now, this isn't quite there. So let's go back to our roles, and we're going to go into Shorty CRUD, and we're going to actually look at this DDB CRUD role, okay? And I want to edit this here. Okay, so I got put item, delete item, update item. I want all those, but because I have an index, I need a little more here, okay? So I'm going to edit this policy. And I'm going to just do it in JSON, and I'm going to turn resource into an array, okay? Because we need to add one more policy. So we're not going to define a schema. If you're talking about schema in DDB, in Amazon Gateway, I can't talk, API Gateway, we'll define that on another show. We're not going to do that here. We're just going to build it really quick, but we will be talking about schemas and data validation a little later. All right, so let's go over to our index here. Okay, and we have owner index. And so what we need to do is we need to add one more role. Hang on a second here. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to add one more here. Now, I could do this through wildcards, but again, I'm big into granular security. So I'm going to say index / owner index, okay? So now I can only get to the Shorty table and the index owner index on Shorty table. So keeping those real granular. All right, great. Welcome to Unwishing Moon. Yes, welcome there. So, bypassing the DynamoDB part and just using Lambda entirely for my URL show. Okay, that's a different way also. Last week in AWS, oh boy, did he join us? Is that who I think it is? All right, welcome, last week in AWS. All right, so let's review this policy, and we are good here. All right. So now we've got this set up here. Yeah, there might be a Route 53 coming. So our policies are granular. So now we have our policy set up. So now we can start building, all righty? Here we go. Lambda, yeah, Lambda isn't just compute. That's true. It's very powerful database. Little known fact on that. All right. So let's talk about which API we're going to build. Okay, so we've got several here. Now I'm not doing WebSocket, so I don't need that one, and I'm not doing private, so I'm not going to do the private one. So I have to choose between REST API and HTTP API, which HTTP API is our newest. Now, HTTP API at this time does not support direct service integrations. So we're going to go with REST API. But once again, I would like to say that we are planning to have feature parity between HTTP API and REST API. So at a later date, we can use HTTP API for this very project, and I'll probably be revisiting this as we go. All right. So let's go with REST API. So we're going to create this. Now, I got a couple questions I need to answer. Okay, first of all, we're going to say REST. I'm going to do a new API, and we're going to call this one Shorty. Okay. Now, down to the question about regional versus edge. So I can do either one here. I'm going to choose regional, and the reason I'm doing that is because first of all, I'm not pushing out to the globally, but even if I were going globally, I would do this. So let's talk about that real quick. With a regional endpoint, the API gateway is going to be obviously in a region, US West 2 in this case, or US East 1 or something like that. Okay, I can use caching, and that caching will be in the region. I can use WAF and different things and attach it. However, I can then put CloudFront, my own where I manage, in front of that and make that global and make use of CloudFront's caching at the edge. So not just the edge access points, but also the caching. If I go with an edge optimized one, then it's not going to use the caching in CloudFront. It's just going to use the edge locations for access points. So my choice is to go regional and then do a self-managed CloudFront in front of it later, and we'll probably set that up at a later point. All right, so let's go ahead and create this. Okay. All righty. there's a yes. So, all right. So now we have a debate on Lambda and its ability to be a database. So I'll let that go right now while I'm doing my thing here. All right. So first thing we need to do, we've got our database. It's very simple. It's set up here. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to go and throw an authorizer, because again, authorizers are, the security's first. So we're going to name this shorty auth. Okay. I'm going to try that again. Auth. Watch my spelling. Okay. It's going to be a Cognito because we're going to use Cognito. And then I've got one called auth stack that I'm going to use. The token source is going to be Authorizer. Okay. Did I spell that right? Hopefully I did. I'll change it if I need to. All right. So we go create. Now let's start building the API. We've kind of built a lot of our kind of supporting services up, and I did do the Cognito one. And if you're wondering how to build out that Cognito, check out my sessions with Sam last a week and a half ago. I showed how to build Cognito with Sam to support this kind of thing. So. And I'm going to ask Rob if you'll throw in our serverless channel into the chat so that you can get at those videos. That'd be great. All right, so let's start building out the actual API. Now, when we talk about routes, we have, I feel like I should point out, please do not do that in production. Okay, what are we talking about? Okay, so here's a question. Does regional mean your DB is going into every region or only the regions that people request to access it? Regional means, so regional is the HTTP or is the API gateway, and it's going to be within a region. My database is also in a region, so it's all confined to a region. Now it can be accessed from anywhere in the world, but there is the latency issue. What I'm going to do to get around that in a later episode is put CloudFront out, and that makes it global. So it's going to push our data out. It's going to cache it at the edge locations all around the world. And it's going to provide closer endpoints for users to get at. So Cognito in production works just fine. So and don't use Lambda as a database in production. Yeah. So there we go. All right. Thanks for throwing that channel in. I appreciate that, Rob. Okay, so let's start building these up. Now, a route is created, and it's made up of a resource and a method. So the first thing we're going to do is right on our root, we're going to create a resource. We're going to create our admin app first. Okay, so we're going to create a resource called app. Okay. And that just means it's going to be /. I'm not going to do a proxy because I'm going to actually build this out, and I'm not going to enable cores right now yet either. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. Now we will enable cores because cores is part of security, and we want that to be there. So don't worry, we will be adding that in. All right. How are we doing? Hi, you've stated that it won't cache if you use Lambda Edge with CloudFront. Why is that? All right, so to be clear, there's some terminologies that I want to make sure of. I'm not talking about Lambda Edge. I'm talking about our Edge network that's built by CloudFront. CloudFront also has Lambdas at Edge, which you can make use of. We won't in this, but you can make use of to modify the response and requests. When I'm talking about Edge, I'm talking about an Edge optimized API gateway, and it does not make use of the cache out in CloudFront. You can still use its local cache at the API gateway. Hopefully that makes sense. Non-snarky question. We'll see. What does new HTTP API change the story for how this gets built at all? Well, when integrations available through HTTP API, it will, we'll be able to directly integrate, and so we'll be able to bring the cost down. It'll be faster response time, because what we've seen is with HTTP API, it is 60% faster and 70% cheaper. So mainly that's what you get at. You'll also get the improved UI, where a lot of the setup is going to be easier to do. So there's several things, but I think the big one is speed and cost. So, alrighty. Okay, there we go. API Gateway Edge. All right. So I hope that answered your question. I hope that made sense. If not, please post it again. Glad to clarify. So I'm going to build for a little bit, then I'll come back to questions. So we've got our app set up. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create, because we got to get some data in there. So let's go ahead and create our method that is it's a post, right? Because we use post to create it. Okay, now when we create this, first thing we're going to do is we're going to build our integration. Now here's where the magic happens, where we get our API gateway to talk directly to a service. Now, I do want to throw a disclaimer here. We're not going to finish all this hour. There's a lot to do in an hour. If I'm going too fast, that's why we record it, so you can go back and watch it, and I'll be posting this to our YouTube serverless channel. But when we're building this out, we'll probably go another 1 or even 2 sessions. So don't worry if we don't finish. But again, you can refer to the blog post that's been set up in the repo. Yes, I am a cloud architect. I worked as a cloud architect for quite a while. So, all right. So setting up the integration. So first thing we're going to do is the AWS service. So because that's what we want to connect to, we're going to tell it what region our AWS service is in. And we're going to tell it what service we're going to connect to, which is DynamoDB. And there we go. Okay. As far as the AWS subdomain, don't worry about that right now. Now, with DynamoDB, anytime I interact with DynamoDB, it's going to be a post because I'm going to make an action. Okay. So let's go here. We'll say post. And then I'm going to use an action name. All right. So in our post, we're going to do, and here's where I told you I was going to explain. We're going to use update item. Okay. Now you may be saying to yourself, whoa, if this is creating a new record, why are we using update item? Well, here's the reason. When I use a put item, it will create the new record. It creates it great, and it's pretty straightforward. However, if you use an update item, however, the put item won't return the new object. It's just the way Dynamo works. An update item will, and if the record doesn't exist, if you're trying to update a record that doesn't exist, it will create it. So it's kind of a create and return. So this way, because remember, we're building this without any Lambda, and with API Gateway, I don't have logic to say, okay, now that I've created that, now read and get that object back so I can send it back to the customer. What I need to do is happen all in one round trip. So by using update item, I get this record back. Now, for our execution role, we are going to be writing. So let's go ahead and grab that. And I didn't save it. Let's grab it real quick. So this is our execution role. Make sure that I've got it saved. And let's go back to our roles here. And we'll go shorty. Okay. So we want the shorty CRUD. So let's grab this one. And I'm going to need it later. So we'll paste it here. And then we'll also paste it in our API gateway. Okay, so with that, now what I've got is I've got a role that allows me to put new items into there. Content handling, I don't need to convert anything. I don't need to convert to binary, convert to text, and I'm going to leave the default timeout. So we're going to go ahead and save this. Alrighty. So now that we've got our app and our post, and we've got our integration, okay, we're almost to the point where we can create records. However, we need to teach it how, or we need to tell API Gateway how to integrate with DynamoDB. Because remember, I didn't put a table here. Okay, so it's like, well, all right, all it's saying is I know to do something with the table. So if you're familiar with the SDK, this is going to look fairly familiar to you. Now, in my code here, I've actually broken out all the templates so that they're easy to see. And we're going to grab the post response. We're going to go grab our post request. Now, don't worry about it here. I'm going to blow this up so you can see it, and I'm going to explain what these are doing. And so we'll create these. So let me go back to this, and I'm going to stop and answer some questions real quick here. I built one of these a couple of weeks ago. Pro tip: my first iteration would just base64 encode the URL slug, so it didn't need a data store at all. Turns out that's super exploitable by spammers, so don't do that. There you go. Good call. Alrighty. My use case, okay. One thing I love, Eric Solutions, is you can define your slugs, so they're pretty. Yes, you can. What is the difference between REST API and HTTP API? We've got some blogs on that. There we go. Rob is on it. Thank you. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to be able to talk to DynamoDB. So we're going to use a technology called mapping templates. We're not going to cover anything else in here right now, but for the mapping templates, we're going to add a mapping template. We're going to say if you get a payload that is application JSON, I want you to run this mapping template. I need to spell it right, of course, so call me out if you see something spelled wrong. So by checking this, now it's gonna throw up a message, and this is saying your current pass-through behavior will pass all request payloads directly to the endpoint without transformation. Well, we don't want that, right? Unless there's a match for an incoming content type. Do you want to secure this integration to only allow requests that match one of your defined content types? Yes, we can secure it. So what that basically did is that instead of this one, go to this one. So we'll do body pass-through when no templates are defined, and we'll define templates to handle that. So we have this empty template, and I'm going to paste our template. Now let me blow this up and blow this up. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm going to walk through this. Now, one, this is just an auto-generated table. When you build this with code, with the infrastructure of code and SAM, this is the, it just auto-generates table. But we've got a table name called Shorty, all right? So what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm making sure the attribute does not exist, okay? Because we don't want to duplicate or overwrite this, right? In this particular example, we want to create a new one. Then I'm going to pass the key that I input, and it's going to grab that from the input from the ID. Then I'm going to pass expression attribute names. Now this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on expression attribute names and expression attribute values. These are explained in the SDK because I'm using the same syntax from the SDK. But basically the idea is these help you avoid reserved words. Like if URL or owner or timestamp were reserved words, I can map them to a variable. So I use that to say when I want to get the URL from the database, I'm going to use #u. The same with expression attribute values. So it says when I need a value, I'm going to use :u, and I'm going to grab that. It should match string input.json URL. Now, if you don't understand this syntax, when we get over to DynamoDB, I'll show it to you. Okay. But it declares that what kind of object it is, the type, and then the value. Okay. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say set u equal to u, o equal to o, ts equal to ts. So I'm basically saying set all these values. And I'm also, it will, because it doesn't exist, it's going to create the ID. So in the end, I'm going to have an ID, a URL, an owner, and a timestamp. And I'll explain how the ID is going to work in a minute. And then it returns the whole thing. Whew, that was a lot. All right. So let's go ahead and save this. Okay. All right. So now that we've got this working, I could go over here. In fact, we're going to actually pop in here and I'm going to change this out real quick. How are we doing on here? All right. Okay. So we've got some things. No new questions. Good. Now, just for the moment, I'm going to take out this context claims, authorizer claims email, and I'm going to hard code in my email address, okay? What that's going to do is when we are authenticated against our app, which we'll do in a little bit, and I create one, it's going to insert my email as the owner, okay? But for now, so we can test it, I want to actually just hard code that for the moment, okay? All righty. Looks like we've got some questions being asked and answered. What if you need to read from an index or something? Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, I can do other templates. I'll explain that another time. Because we have so much to cover, I probably won't jump into anything else at the moment. But I do have some links for VTL, and actually, I'll just post this in real quick here. That'll be helpful. So first of all, here's AWS's VTL, and then here's Apache's VTL, and then I'm glad to answer those offline. If you'll look me up on Twitter, if I don't get it answered here, glad to handle that offline as well through direct message or chat. So, all righty. Yep, there you go. So Rob's answering some questions. So for the moment, I've hard coded that in. So we're going to save that so we can just do a test. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pop back and I'm going to do a test. And this is where you look at that and go, boy, I hope this works because, yeah. All right. So the two things I need are ID. Okay. And we're going to create one called AWS. Okay. And the second one is the actual URL. Everything else is dynamically populated. Okay. All right. So we're going to actually pass in aws.amazon.com. Okay, so it'd be great if this worked right off the bat. We'll see. Sorry, that's rolling down. I've got a lot of stuff here. Let's see if we can close this out for the moment. That'll help. All right, so let's go ahead and test this. Back this off. Okay, amazon.com. All right, so if I test this, if all worked well, I should get a response. Let's see what we got here. I did. Looky there. All right. So it created. I'm so excited. Little dance here going on. So we've got where basically I posted it and it created the new user just like I wanted to, and it returned it. Now this is not very friendly to our clients, right? When we look at that, it's like, well, that's not going to help. Now let's look at DynamoDB real quick and let's explain this. If we look at, we're going to go back to our items here, and we've got our one item in there. Now we're going to open this up. And there's a couple of ways. So DynamoDB, this is showing you the nice way it is. So its ID is a string, owner is a string, everything's a string in this one, okay? However, I can look at this in text, okay? This is what clients like to see. However, this is how DynamoDB stores it. So this helps DynamoDB understand string versus map versus list versus whatever. So that's how it's stored in DynamoDB, and that's how you get it back if you use the DynamoDB clients in like the AWS SDK. However, if you use the document client in the AWS SDK, then it will unmarshal or marshal. I never remember, but it will clean it up for you. Okay, alrighty. Okay, you would want XML. That doesn't surprise me actually. That's good. All right, so now we've got this. So what we need to do, let's cancel out of here. We need to help our data. Okay, so we've got this coming out like so. Let's update our output. So what we've done so far is we have mapped our request. Now we're going to map our response. Okay, so let's take a look here. And we're going to do this in our integration response. Now, real quick, method response kind of maps what our response should look like. This is how we set values. This is going into the integration. This is coming out of the integration. And this is coming from the client. Okay, not going to cover a lot of that here. I have several episodes out on from reInvent last year where I talk about this as well. Let's jump into our integration response. So, well, actually, we'll go method response. So we automatically built to 200. We know we're going to get a 200 back. And this, what we would do is we'd go in for each one. I'm pretty solid with my code, so I'm just going to go with 200 for right now. But I can go, I can add 400s, 500s, however I need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into integration response, and I'm going to set this. Now I'm going to set and you'll see here if I hover over this, and this is a regex, so I'm going to say 2D and then 2 characters. So basically that's going to catch all 200s. All right, so all my 200s should use this. We're going to save that, and I'm going to add a mapping template. Don't worry about header mappings right now. We'll look at that a little later. It already knows I'm going to do application JSON coming back out. So let's grab the right template here. Okay, this is our 200 post response. Okay, and again, I'll explain this when we put it in. All right, text big enough? All right, let's see what's being said. Eric is twitching now. He wants to wash my mouth out with soap. Oh, well played, sir. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I believe. Now, don't tell Tim Bray, who, invented XML, but yes, I'm a fan of JSON, but XML has its place and was big in its heyday. All right, I would hug Tim Bray. Tim, I'm hugging you. All right, so let's see what this is. All we're doing here is we're setting a variable called input root, and it's to the input.path, everything in the path. I now have access to the data coming back from DynamoDB. Now remember, it's coming back as the parameter name and the type. Okay, so I'm going to say my ID should be equal to inputroot.attributes.id.string. So that's going to give me that value when I look at this item here again. And we look at it in the text mode with DynamoDB on, it's going to give me the value of this. So it goes into the object and grabs AWS. Okay, so now, and I do that for each one. So it's just a simple mapping. And you can set up some looping. And different things like that. I don't know if he invented it, but I know he was big in it. I heard, now maybe I'm spreading rumors. So, but that is what I heard, but I don't have any categorical proof on that, but I'm pretty sure Tim was heavily involved in the creation of XML. So there you go. And if I'm wrong, there you go, Tim. I just give you some credit. So he may be laughing right now. No, not at all. All right. So here we are with our map. So now we can save this. So let's go back to our test again. Let's create a new one. Okay. So we're going to do, let's do Amazon. We're going to just do a short of Amazon, AMZN, and then we're going to just do Amazon.com. Okay. So if I do this, let's see what comes back. And there you go. All right, so now I have data in a format that's friendly to the client, that's usable in our data. All right, so I'm ready. There you go. One of the commenters. There you go. I taught Corey Quinn something. I'm so excited. I'm sorry. Last week was that? Were you in stealth? I apologize. All right, so here we go. Okay, so now we can move on. So we now have the ability to create data. Okay, so let's see our URL. Don't dox. Okay, so let's see our URL shortener in action. Let's see it actually respond. So what we need to do is we need to build something in the root that people can hit the API and get their response. So we're going to build a new method. New resource. Okay, and let me show you a little trick here. So on this resource, we wanted to just grab an ID. Now remember, our ID is the short link of what we're using. So we're going to call it link ID. And notice I've got it in brackets. This tells API Gateway, hey, this is going to be a parameter. And I'm going to use the same thing for the resource path because it's just right there in the root. Again, I'm not going to do proxy. I'm not going to do cores right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create this resource. And then on it, the only thing that we need is, oh, look at there. I created it under the app folder. I did that last time too. Let me delete that. Okay. Okay, you're into the name. Oh, hey, whoa, hey. Hey, did you guys see that? I almost, oh, hey, don't bounce me. All right, let's delete the resource and not the API. All right, there we go. That would have been bad. All right, so on the action, let's minimize this. Okay, we're going to now create a new resource here, and we're going to call it link ID. There we go. Copy this. Hang on. Wow. All righty. Okay. All right, there we go. Now, I guess I didn't have it in the right place earlier. It looked funky, didn't it? All right, so the next thing we need, all we're going to do is a get, okay? And so that's just saying, so any browser can hit this and pass a link ID, and it'll get to this route. All righty. Oh, Rob got removed as moderator. All right. A little battle's going on. Okay, so we've seen this before, so I'm going to go kind of quick through this, but again, we're going to set up an integration directly with DynamoDB. Okay. Now remember, in this one, okay, again, you're going to do a post. And you maybe go, wait. We're doing a get, then you're putting post. Remember, any interaction with DynamoDB is done as a post. We're saying, hey, we want to do some action. Okay. And so this, we're actually going to do a get item. Okay. So let me pop that in here real quick. Okay. All right, so we're going to do get item. And these are the same as if you'd see them in the SDK. Now, for our role, this guy only needs to be able to read. He does not need to be able to write. So now we're going to narrow this down. Okay, and let's go back here to the read-only role. So now I've done granular security. I'm pretty excited about that. All right, don't need anything pass-through and the default, so we're going to save that. Okay, so now we're going to build our request again. So in this, we're going to go down. We're going to do our mapping template. And all we're going to do is we're telling it, hey, we want to be able to, this is what's going to interact with the DynamoDB. This is very much like what we just saw a few minutes ago. Application JSON, there we go. We know, yes, we're going to do that. Let me grab the template. And I've actually updated the site to have these templates. So if you do go to that URL, you can see the templates. All right. This is a really simple one. Okay. Under get item, all it needs is an ID. It needs a table name and an ID. So very, 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 very fast access. Okay. So we do shorty here. So we're saying hit the table name and do this access. Okay. All righty. So I'm okay. Joke aside, validated that a URL shortener existed in the database, incremented. Okay, set a flag that. Okay, I'm reading this set of flag that had given a user a visit link. Yeah, so we're gonna. I appreciate that. We can look at how we do analytics on this depending, and that's different on if you do regional or edge, but we can use a Kinesis. We can dump information from our access logs into Kinesis and build an actual template or dashboard to see how that traffic is going. And we can also trigger a Lambda to re-update our DynamoDB with near real-time data on who's seen it, things like that. So this is if you've heard me talk about, this is the storage pattern where you write to the database first, and then we'll use a stream to trigger to bring that back around. And hopefully in one of the next parts we'll get through that, but then I can try to do that. But just to give you an idea. So, alrighty. So this creates our table name. This actually reads from the database. Okay, and we'll save that. And if we go in and we test this real quick, if I just do AWS, I should be able to test this. And I get the AWS, but again, it's not in a format that we want to use. So now we're going to do our map for our response. Now this gets a little different, okay? Because we're using a URL shortener. What we want to come out is not a 200. We want a 301 or a 302, depending on how you're doing it. I'm using a 301 because these stay for a while. So what we need to do in our method response is we need to get rid of this 200 and say, no, that's not our primary one. We're instead going to do a 301. Okay, so I'm going to add that in. And then the next thing I'm going to do is you have to have a location header in your response. Okay, so we're going to do a location like this. So what this is doing is saying, okay, I expect a 301 from my backend service, and I expect a location value, okay, as a header. So I'm going to add those. So now when I go over to my integration response, there's a couple things I'm going to do, okay? So in this is kind of interesting. We're going to remap our response, okay? So we're going to say, if I get a 200, we're actually just going to kill this and recreate it because it makes it a little easier. Okay, I'm going to add an integration response. I'm going to say, if I get a 200, like I said, and I always remember, yep, there it is. Okay, I want to map you to a 300. So what that's saying is when DynamoDB returns with a 200, I want it to respond with a 301. So we're going to save that. Okay, then I'm going to go in here and in my header mapping. Now remember, we got to pass back a location so the browser knows to redirect. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put a default value in there. Now I have this little URL shortener called slip.link. Okay, that's the client that I use, and you've probably seen some of that. So I'm putting in the value, and I'm even going to pass some data back to my client so it knows, hey, the link not found. I think that should be LNF, not NLF. Oh no, I'm sorry, no link found is what I look for. So that tells it, hey, and so then in my client, I can say, hey, you looked for this link, but it didn't get it. So now you're back to this client, and we're going to show you some UI based on that. There you go. Now, that's the default mapping that's going to go back. So what we want to do in our mapping template is if all works well, we want to override that. Let's talk through that. Okay, so we need our template here. Okay, let's grab the template. Okay, and so this is the the get response under, not link ID, the get response. Here it is. All right, so now we've got some logic going on in our VTL. And let me explain this, and I'll pull this up. Here's what we're doing. We're going to say set, nope, this is the wrong one, guys. Let's grab that again. That's not going to do us any good. This is on the root. Okay, the link ID, here we go, the get response. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set our parameters so we can get at our data. Okay, and we're looking at the path. Okay, and I'm going to say if the root contains an item, because if it returns something, it'll be under the item parameter. Then set context.responseOverride.header.location to that value. That's all I'm doing here. I'm saying if it exists, then replace that value in the location header. If it doesn't, then let it just return with the default value. So let's go in here and see if that works. All right, so we're going to test this real quick, and I'm going to look for AWS, and I'm going to hit test, and notice there's no data, which is what we expected, but look in here, it did exist. So here's my location, and it's a 301 response. So my browser would get redirected to what's going on. Now, what if I do AWS 2, which doesn't exist? Well, we don't want it to blow up. We don't want a 400, so I still get a 301 and no data. But here, my, you know what? I probably put that header value in wrong. We can fix that real quick. So in my integration response, under there, we're going to say HTTPS. Oh, yeah, here's the big one. Save the value. I'm really guilty of that a lot. So let's go back and test that now. Okay, we go in here and we test it, and there it is. So in a sense, in a very short amount of code, I've been able to say, redirect them. If it doesn't, still redirect them, but push them back to your client. All right, so someone's here to say hello. Checking the chat real quick. My use case was a bit different. Email, yep, you have a lot. Okay, I want to click it 50 times and have it show up. All righty. All right, let me, okay. I'm gonna come back to this and read it again, see if we can parse that out, but I'm gonna build a little more. Now that we've got this working, okay, so we have a route outside working, okay, and we've got a post. So let's take a look real quick, and let's, first of all, on our post, we want to add an auth. We don't want people to be doing anything to this that they don't have an auth. Now remember, we created one called Shorty Auth. So I'm going to check this, okay? So let's go back to our post integration. And on that integration, if you remember, I hard-coded when we're creating that record in the map, I hard-coded my email. But really what I don't want to do that, okay? Because obviously if you're creating it, you should get to, have your own, and I won't own it all. So we're going to context dot, and I'm going to cheat and look at this because I always spell this wrong and I don't want to have to hunt that down later. So we're going to do our post, let's do our, wait for it, app, here it is, the post request, and grab, here it is. And if this is small, that's okay. You can look it up on the repo and you can see it all right there. And the repo is up in the chat if you don't have it. Okay, so now let me explain what this is going to do. When this creates it and you're authorized, it's actually going to grab the email from the ID token that was used to authorize against. Okay, and when we're using API Gateway, that's how it works. You can pass the ID token, it'll grab it, it'll add it. You could instead, use the access token and do the sub, which is the unique ID for the user. So you can do that multiple ways. I felt this was going to work fine for me. And that owner is put into the owner is actually my global secondary index. So I could quickly say, grab me all of Eric's short links when I'm in the admin client. Okay. Now we're running out of time a little bit, so we're going to go back and see this work outside, so we can kind of see, if it is working, and then I'm going to try to answer some questions and go back through. All right. So I'm going to go to Postman real quick here. Okay. And in Postman, I'm going to go to our post, and I actually have set up my authorizer. Again, we did this in sessions with Sam, so if you're confused on how to set up your authorizer and make it work with this, I talked through that. So we're going to get our access token, and I've got this set up, and I'm using implicit so it works with Postman. You don't have to use implicit. You could use authorization code anywhere else, but that's what it is. I'm just passing my callback URL as localhost right now, and then these are my addresses. Okay, so let's request the token. And this is the hosted UI that Cognito can do for you. And so I'm just going to log in here while y'all are watching, so I'll probably type wrong. Alrighty. And my password, try really hard not to say my password out loud while I'm typing it. That takes a lot of work. Okay, so what I want here is I want the ID token. Now I can't use this in the normal Cognito, Postman authorization because it doesn't work that way. But I'm going to go in here, and in my header as an authorization, I'm going to post a token. You'll notice it does not say bearer. This isn't a JWT. It's not a standard. This is the token that we're passing here, and it's expected in the authorization. And hopefully I spelled that right. You know what? I'm not sure I did. So we're going to do this here real quick. We're going to go back over to our authorizer. Now, does anybody want to guess if this will work right now? Yeah, I did that wrong. Anybody want to take a guess if they think it'll work right now? Okay, not answer. Okay, so here's the thing. This will not work yet because of the major thing that I always forget to do, and that is deploy the application or the API gateway. So we're going to go ahead and deploy this. I haven't deployed it yet, so I'm going to create a new stage. This is going to be my prod stage. Okay, I don't need a stage description right now. All right, I just deployed it. Okay, and here's my address that I go to. Let's pop over to Postman. Let's pop this in. Okay. And let's try that again. Okay. All right. So, and I want to hit the app folder. So, what should be happening now is I've got a body here. Nope, I didn't. Let's go in here, raw, and let's create a JSON. So we're just going to add some new ones. So I'll just do. Let's go ID. Someone throw a link in. Anybody got one? It won't work because that's probably true. All right, who wants a short link? Okay, Corey, what's the link to your website? I should know that, huh? All righty, anybody? Someone throw one in. All right, well I'll just do odd. So we'll go stories like this, and we'll go HTTPS audible.com. There we go. All right, so when I post this, I should be able, everything should work. And it is empty. So why is it empty? Let's see what we got here in our header. Did I get in our header response. Okay. Did the app. Oh, I did a get instead of a post. All right, that was bad on my part. Let's try that again. Okay, I did the wrong tab. Now we can do it. Okay, so let's try it again with the header. And did we get a response? We did. It worked. Yes. All right. So now we have stories, URL. So now if we do, let's go back here. Let's just change my other one now. So we're going to go to get, and we're going to hit that URL straight up. Okay. Well, that's a long one because I've got it too many times here. Okay. Oh, goodness. It's really giving me grief today. All right. So this should be the right one. And we're going to do it on the root, and we're going to pass stories. Okay, now theoretically this should work. I don't need a header for this, so I'm going to clear this header out. Okay, there we go, stories, and I'm going to hit this. Let's see what we got back. No data, which is acceptable. In the headers under location, there you go. So it would get redirected. So let's actually go try this. Go to our browser. Okay. And hit stories, and there you go. URL shortener, really fast. That's not as fast as it possibly can be. We're going to call it there. Now, if you think about, all we're missing now is the ability to update and delete. Okay, so those I can add in. It's the same process. The templates are available on the URL that I'm using. So we'll cover that. Next week, we're going to talk more about security and some steps that we can take to make sure and lock down. And if we get into it, optimization, where we talk about caching, where do we cache, how do we build this out? The ultimate on mine that I've got when I'm running cache, I was getting numbers in the roughly 30 to 40 millisecond globally for P99. So it's very fast because I was caching 5 minute, 10 minute, however long you think your URL should last. So let me go through here real quick, see if we have any questions. Customers move data. Yep. Yes, price is good. All right, so I'm going to read this use case real quick here. My use case was a bit different. I emailed 17.6 thousand people every week. I also feel like I do that sometimes. I want to know how many unique people click a given link, right? But I don't want to know who those people are, and I don't want you to click it 50 times and have it show up as 50 clicks, okay? I would think so. Okay, so you need unique users. So you want to say, here's how many times it was clicked, but here's how many times they were unique. And so if you do the access, and maybe we'll get into that and talk about that, but if I take the access logs and I dump them into Kinesis, I can filter and say, okay, let's grab all from this, and it gets kind of hairy when you do IP, but we can try to make that as unique as possible. And the fun thing is you can do that real time using Kinesis data analytics. And maybe we'll have some fun and try to set that up in an upcoming episode. With that, I encourage you to go to stay on this channel. Rob is going to be jumping on next. He's going to be doing step functions. Rob, post in here your topic. What have you been talking about? So right on this channel. Just stay right here. Again, in 2 weeks, we'll be continuing this session on building a serverless URL shortener with just API Gateway and DynamoDB. And I'm going to look for if we have any other questions here before we drop out. Service integrations, yes. So let me talk about service integrations and how do you integrate step functions directly with services. You can do much like API Gateway can do more than just Lambda. It can talk to a lot of different things. So, any other questions here? Okay, yeah, Kinesis, yeah. I didn't think about it. Yeah, that's something. When I was looking to grab these, the first time I built a URL shortener, I was so excited because I just built it, and then I started, and I was getting all the analytics straight from API Gateway, and then I added caching. And if you're using CloudFormation, if you're using CloudFormation for caching, you're doing it wrong. If you're doing CloudFront for caching, then you need to look at the access logs that are coming out of CloudFront as well. Now, currently, it does not go direct to Kinesis, so there's some work that needs to be done there, and that's where your Lambda at Edge could come in. That's where you can write some processes. So you're not going to get as near real time. However, if you're okay with using a regional API endpoint like we've done here, and just giving your users a closer endpoint to access, which would be, like at, just use the Edge network, but not the caching on the Edge. Your caching can be local to API Gateway, and then we can get some more data and be a little more real time about how that's working. All right. Oh, the focus is off. Yeah, my camera does that sometimes here. I think I can fix that. It's a great camera, but sometimes it just doesn't play nicely. So I have the Logitech Brio. There we go. That should have fixed it. Let me take a look to see if we have any other questions coming in. All right. Yeah, I am blurring in real life. That's very true. So it's too much Diet Dr. Pepper. All right. Hey, cloudy guy. Yes. All right. I was debating between studying ML, AWS, or LeetCode. Well, I don't know what LeetCode is, but ML on AWS is a really good choice. So, all right. With that, I'm going to give you 3 minutes back of your time. This Thursday, I'll be doing sessions with Sam where we'll be talking actually about Kinesis building in SAM. So using SAM templates and building Kinesis, and maybe we'll get a head start on some Kinesis data analytics. So happy little APIs. Stay happy. Enjoyed your time. Guys and gals, have a great afternoon. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Thank you.